the 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Press Box Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chet Chesko.
It's Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, and the Philadelphia Eagles are still Super Bowl champions. And the Philadelphia Phillies have the best record in the National League. Welcome to the Philly Press Box Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, Cavs, Philly Tailgates, and the STT Sports Network. I'm Bill Furman. I'll be your host tonight, along with my partner, Jim Chet Chesko. Chet, the Phillies are playing solid baseball, winning 11 of their last 14. They have the Jose Alvarado situation to figure out, though. The Eagles have given Nick Sirianni a long-term extension, and we learned today the Tush Bush is here to stay, at least for another year. The Flyers have named head coach Rick Tocchet, and he held his first press conference to talk about being back in Philly. And the Sixers are exploring many options with a number 3 pick in next week's draft. You know, it's only the third week of May, Chet. Quiet time in most places, but not in Philly. We certainly have plenty to talk about in Philly sports. Oh, did I mention I'll be at the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday?
Well, that is something different, Bill, for sure. Yeah, we have so much to get to tonight, but we will do it, I'm sure. We're going to make it to the checkered flag, Bill, speaking of the Indy 500. Go. How about that little cross-reference there?
There you go. Hey, well, we have a great guest making a return visit tonight to Philly Press Box Radio and Senior Director at Rowan University Center of Sports Communications and Social Impact and the Camp Director for Play-by-Play Sports Camps, Neil Hartman. It's always great having Neil with us.
Yeah, it's an annual tradition, Bill, a visit from the great former Philly sports anchor. In fact, I checked my master spreadsheet, my Excel spreadsheet, and this is the 8th straight year that Neil's making a May or June visit to our show. So that's pretty cool.
Very good. Well, hey, let's get to it. Let's welcome Neil Hartman back to Philly Press Box Radio. Neil, welcome.
Well, thank you. 8 years, really? I remember I did 1 year. I did a poolside. I was down the shore, so that was a little later in the summer. Heading down to the shore this weekend, but I know I did it poolside. Then 1 year you had Leslie Goodell called in.
Yeah,
right. We had your work wife on.
Yep. Or maybe were we together, or did you just call her in?
I think we had her brought in. Just
brought in.
Heck
Okay,
of it.
Yeah. So it's always a pleasure to talk with you guys, and that's the great thing about Philadelphia sports is that there's something to talk about all year long. And you would think, oh, let's talk about Phillies. Oh, no. We got Tush Bush. We got Talk. The Sixers coming up with the draft. Like, this is incredible. This is why I teach a class at Rowan University. I'm an administrator, but I do teach class. Mm-hmm. I teach a couple of them, actually. But I teach Philly sports past and present. And I tell the students this all the time. It works in a city like Philadelphia because sports matters. That's why you guys are on the air. That's why we have all these sports opportunities for students and for, the people to watch and absorb and take it all in. And look, this is just another great day in Philadelphia sports.
It would be nice if our winter pro teams were in the postseason, but hey, you can't have everything. We got a Super Bowl champion.
You got a Super Bowl, man. By the way, you got to update your Super Bowl.
I know.
You guys are a Super Bowl behind, man. You got to update
this thing. We'll catch up. Well, Neil, thanks for joining us. As I said, 8 years in a row. Let's talk a little Phillies first of all. The Phils all of a sudden have won 5 in a row. They have the best record in the National League. They're a game and a half up on the Mets, on pace for 101 wins. Who would have thunk it? But there is that Jose Alvarado situation that Bill mentioned at the top. That is a concern because the bullpen was maybe one of the weak links, or so it seemed. And now he's going to be gone for 80 games and the postseason. What is your reaction to that news regarding Alvarado, and how big a blow is that to the Phillies bullpen?
That's a huge blow. That's a huge blow. He was the most reliable, big moment arm that the Phillies had, and he was having a really good year. And so the Phillies are going to miss him deeply. I mean, first of all, the 80 games is one thing, but the playoffs is where it really comes into play. Now, Romano has done well. I got to give him credit. After that horrible start, he's done well. You got to hope that Strom is a good left-hander, but they're going to have to do some kind of maneuvering with their existing arms because they do have a lot of arms, but not a lot of bullpen, high-quality, high-leverage guys that they'll be able to put out there. So I'm not necessarily sold on Kerkering. I think he's still, he's a little questionable at times, but I think you have to figure out, is Ranger the guy that maybe you put in the bullpen? I mean, look what they're doing here in this rotation. There's so many. We're not even mentioning Andrew Painter, who comes back at some point, and how well will he do? So right now they have a lot of arms, but this is a guy that was used to the pressure moment of closing out a game or pitching in a high leverage moment, and that's something that I don't think you can replicate. You might be a really good pitcher. You might be able to get guys out in the second, third, fourth, fifth inning. But when you get to that sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth inning, particularly in the playoffs, you better be, tested and be able to have gone through that before. And I'm questioning whether they have that. Now, again, they have a few, but you're going to need some because you can't anticipate everybody's going to be on in the playoffs. And you need somebody that's going to be there when you need an out. You got to go to that bullpen and get that guy to get the out.
Yeah, and I think the bigger thing to that is he's a left-hander, which leaves him only with Matt Strom and Tanner Banks out there in the bullpen left-handed. And from the way they were talking on the broadcast the other day is there's nobody on the farm. There's nobody ready to bring up left-handed that can fill one of those roles. That's going to be huge down the stretch. They're going to have to make a move.
Well, or Ranger in the playoffs becomes that guy. Now, he did it a few years ago, came in some really key moments and pitched well out of the bullpen. I mean, Ranger doesn't seem to get fazed by anything. So when I talk about someone that can adjust to the pressure of the moment, I think Ranger can. But he's also, he's been pretty decent since he's come back. Pitching, put aside his opening start, but he's been pretty decent. So I think that's an arm that you could consider maybe would be a left-hander for you. You already have Sanchez as a lefty that would be certainly at the top of your rotation. So, in the playoffs, you're really only going 4 deep and a starting rotation. So I don't know. That's something that at least you have Ranger, provided everyone's healthy by the end of the year. So to me, that's one option, and I'm sure Dave Dombrowski will come up with some other option as well.
Well, speaking of left-handers, Jesus Luzardo has been terrific, man. What a pickup he's been. But I'm going to ask you about a different left-hander, a guy who bats left-handed, the designated hitter, Kyle Schwarber. He right now is on pace for 57 home runs and 124 RBI. He's making quite the case for a new contract, is he not?
Oh, you got to give him a contract. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. I can't imagine the Phillies don't do everything they can to bring him back. He's fit into the clubhouse immensely well. He's a leader. He's been a great performer from last year, this year. I mean, he's batting for an average now. It's not tinkering around the Mendoza line. I mean, he's really done a great job, and he's fun to watch. Now, Harper hasn't really been that guy this year. I know he's been picking it up as far as base hits, not necessarily home runs, but he's always been a guy, I don't want to miss Harper, when he's at the plate. You do not want to miss when Kyle Schwarber's at the plate. You don't want to miss him at the plate. So he's been a phenomenal Philly. It's been one of the great free agent pickups by any team here in this city. He's been that good. And a ton, really a joy to watch. And that home run the other night was just insane.
Yeah. Hey, Neil, I wanted to ask you about Zach Wheeler. I don't think the guy, he's great. And I don't think he gets near enough credit. He's kind of under the radar, but every fifth day, he is going to give you a superb outing and has for the whole time he's been here.
Yeah, when he has an off game, you go like, what just happened? Like, this is Zach Wheeler. Like, well, what happened? Like, he had an off game? Like, he's human. Like, you just don't expect him to ever have an off game. But he's pretty much going to give you 7 innings, giving him a max 2 runs, and he's going to strike out 8, whatever, and he's going to, 8 to 10, and he's going to be great. He's been unbelievable. That's another great pickup by the Phillies back in the day. Why the Mets gave up on him, who knows? That guy was just, not that they gave up on him, but the Phillies were able to outbid him. And so to have a guy like that as your cornerstone in your rotation, I don't know if there's a better one in baseball because, oh man, I should knock on wood. He doesn't get hurt. He pitches all the time. He's a great guy in the club. I mean, he's just everything. Has been a great pickup for the Phillies.
We could talk lots more Phillies, and Bill and I will get back to that later, but I want to switch gears with you and ask about the 76ers. Sorry, Bill, but they last month completed a disastrous 24-win season. Despite that, they're not only bringing back Daryl Morey and head coach Nick Nurse, but for now at least, looks like they're also going to bring back Joel Embiid, Paul George, and some of the other core guys if possible. What do you think of that approach, and is there any hope for this franchise?
Well, there's some movement going on in the Sixers organization aside from the basketball side of things. A couple PR guys have left.
Yeah,
some other people in the organization have been dismissed, and Jameer Nelson, who I at Rowan University, we're very involved with the Delaware Bluecoats, the Sixers G League affiliate. Jameer Nelson's been the general manager there the last 2 years. I don't think they've announced anything officially, but I would expect that Jameer is going to move up into an assistant GM role with the Sixers.
I think that is official.
Okay, if it's official, great. There you go. So, I mean, he would be, I think he'll do a nice job. He was very well respected by the players. But here's one thing to me that stands out. I saw this stat today. The cap is at $157 million, and the Sixers are spending $134 million on 3 players: Maxey, George, and Embiid.
Wow.
How do you improve your club when you are hindered with those 3 contracts? Now, Maxey deserves the money. Embiid, if he's healthy, yes, he's George. That's that now, unless that guy comes back this year and turns it all around. That was a horrible, horrible signing. So let's see what happens. But Daryl Morey doesn't have a lot of options because unless he can unload one of those contracts, and it's legitimate. You bring up the question, should you trade, just like in Milwaukee, do you trade Giannis? Do you trade Joel Embiid? And right now he's never gotten him out of the second round. Or wait, they got to the conference finals.
No, never passed the second round.
Well, when they played Toronto, was that second round? Was that when they lost Toronto? Okay, second round.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's not very good for him. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, the guy's a heck of a player when he's healthy and he's on the floor, but that's a big if. And right now, they are stymied with these contracts and what they can actually do to try to improve this team.
Yeah, I wonder if they put him on the market, what cents on the dollar do you get for him? I mean, he's damaged goods. I don't see anybody wanting to part with a whole lot, or maybe even take on his contract. If he's healthy, he's probably top 5, top 8, great player, but he's not healthy.
Well, it's a team that has a player that's been around the league, which doesn't really offer much value to the Sixers, but who had a good run at one time, maybe has a down year, has a big contract, maybe get a young prospect in there with a guy like Embiid, for Embiid. But I don't know. I think it's going to be really hard to move him. Giannis is going to be really hard to move. Again, these guys are, well, at least Giannis won a championship. Joel has not. So, and look at this league. Look at the 4 teams. This is the emergence of the new young breed, young stars in the NBA. They're all there. So right now you're seeing kind of a turnover in the league, and unfortunately, I think the Sixers with Joel is in that former category of stars that were in the league, and now you've got this whole new set of players that are leading teams to, at least at this point, the conference championship.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy to get past all this, but we'll see what happens. Let's go on to a brighter subject, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. But forgive me for bringing this up, Neil, but when we had you on the show last June, you were talking about the Birds' decision to sign Saquon Barkley, and I was in the same boat mentally. I was having some doubts. You said you personally were not a fan of the Saquon Barkley move, citing his track record with injuries, although you did note that, if he stayed healthy, he should do better than he did with the Giants. I'm going to guess you're pretty happy with how it turned out.
I brought it up all year long. I didn't think this guy should be signed. I was wrong. Look at what this guy did. He was unbelievable. Yeah, I was concerned because he had gotten hurt a lot, but look, that offensive line the way they were able to construct the offensive scheming, each and every game. You didn't know, do you concentrate on Barkley? Do you concentrate on the wide receivers? I mean, there was just so many things. And that offensive line, it begins there. So, look, what Barkley was able to do was an unbelievably I don't even know what adjective or how to describe the year. It was unheard of what he did. And I'm so glad he got a Super Bowl ring because of it, because he deserves it. He's that level player. And again, it doesn't matter now. The next couple of years, whatever happens, it doesn't matter. You got your Super Bowl. The move was great. I was wrong. He proved everybody wrong, me wrong, and other people that thought maybe it wasn't a good signing. But he's been unbelievable. So it's been a great addition to the Eagles. And you got to give Howie a lot of credit, man. The guy just keeps plucking players and bringing them in and filling gaps. And so I give him a ton of credit. He saw the vision. He had confidence. And look, when the Eagles draft, they go after players a lot of times that have this questionable past as far as health is concerned. And it generally works out in their favor. And so, I mean, right now you got to give them credit, give the doctors credit, the training staff, whatever they're doing to keep these guys out there and playing each and every week.
Well, speaking of the quiet and the critics, Nick Sirianni won a Super Bowl. He also got an extension this week. He's terms unknown as far as I've seen. We don't know how long that's for, but a lot's got to be said for Nick Sirianni. A lot of people didn't like him much either, but here we are.
Yeah, I think he was making $7 million. And I think the top five, like didn't Ben Johnson, I think Ben Johnson got from the Lions, he got 13 million. So he hasn't done anything. Right. So you got to believe that Sirianni is going to get 14 million or plus, but he's not, will he crack the top five of the top paid coaches in the league, starting with Andy Reid and all the way down? But I think, he deserves it. Look what he's done. He's been incredible since he's been a Philadelphia Eagle coach. Got off to a little sluggish start, but right now he's sitting pretty because he's won a Super Bowl. The team likes him. And the encouraging thing is, I know the schedule is really daunting, but they have the ability to be very competitive again this year, provided they stay healthy, because you lose a few key players, that could be a really tough thing for them to overcome.
As I put up another shot of Nick and the win totals in the bottom left-hand corner, within 2 years, he's going to move into second place on the all-time franchise record for wins behind Andy Reid, which is pretty amazing for a guy who a lot of folks wanted to run out of town as early as, last October.
Yeah, and I look at that, the 6 postseason games that, that when you had that stat up there, right? So you have postseason wins at 6, Andy Reid with 10.
Yeah.
Look, Andy was here a long time, and I don't anticipate Nick Sirianni not being here for a long period of time at this point. I mean, based on what he's already been able to do, but that's a pretty incredible thing. Like the Buddy Ryan lovers he still has people here that love him from when he was here in the early 90s, or late 80s, early 90s. But he just couldn't do it in the playoffs. If you win in the playoffs, man, that speaks volumes, man. It overcomes any deficiency that you might have had during the regular season.
That's right. Hey, Neil, we don't want to run out of time without talking to you about your sports camps that you have going on. Every year we talk to you about it. Every year seems like it's getting bigger and better. Tell us what's going on in 2025.
Yeah, so Play-by-Play Sports Broadcasting Camp's been around since 2002. I've been with them now. This is my 8th summer. I'm a camp director. I generally do 5 to 6 camps. I'm going to do 5 this year. I'm not involved in the Philadelphia camp, which is at Villanova, which is coming up in late June.
There you go.
But that's the Philly camp, and then the North Jersey camp as well. But I do Chicago, Washington, D.C., Denver, Seattle, and then our advanced camp, which is in Philadelphia for 3 days in early July. And look, you see those kids there. We've produced so many future broadcasters that have gone on to pursue it in college and professionally. It's a really neat week. We spend a week with them. There's overnight options as well, and we bring broadcasters to camp, and it's just been a really cool experience for me. I like it. Look, I'm in higher academia now, so higher ed, and so I have a chance to kind of see some of the students. I brought some of those broadcasters from those camps that have a real serious interest in this field, and I've brought them to Rowan. One of them is a blind broadcaster, went to my camp in Chicago, named Alan Wiley, who's gotten a lot of publicity. And Alan is now just completed his freshman year, but he's a broadcaster for the Wilmington Blue Rocks and did the Delaware Blue Coats as a color analyst, and he's blind. It's a remarkable story. So he's just one, but I could rattle off a number of them where you see the kids who become professionals. It's a really neat opportunity for me to be able to experience their progression in this field.
Neil, are those camps all full for this year, or
no? There's plenty. The Philly camps. We have 130 campers lined up for Philadelphia. Last checked, which was a couple of days ago, we were at 65 overnighters. So that's a lot of campers. That's our biggest camp by far. My camp in Chicago, I have around 100. My camp in Seattle, we'll be about 60, 65, 50 or so in DC, about 50 or so in Denver. But we're, again, in 14 cities. You can go on playbuyplay camps.com. You can check out where, a city that you might be interested in going. What's really neat is you see the kids that they go to a camp. Like I have two campers who are going with my overnight in Seattle that have been in my camp in Denver. And they say, hey, I'd like to try out, see another city, get another chance. And we do it at the University of Washington, a beautiful campus. And they go there for another different experience. So each camp, like my DC camp, we do it actually at a TV studio, which is a really cool experience for those campers to be able to work in these professional studios. So it's different everywhere, and but I really enjoy it and hope that if someone's out there looking for their son or daughter, I might add, and it's from 10 to 18, send them our way to playbuyplaycamps.com.
Mm-hmm. So Neil, I have another question on that. Do you do just like play-by-play like you're calling a game? I mean, there's a lot of sports broadcasting opportunities, right? Where you could be, a Channel 6 sports guy or, doing a desk job, or do they get to call soccer games as well as baseball games, or how does it all work? How do they train?
So the moniker is playbuyplaycamps.com, but it really is all aspects of broadcasting. So we begin with sports talk radio. We go into being able to be a reporter. We'll go to a game generally, and they can do play-by-play in the stands of a game. We do play-by-play in a room with a monitor, and then we work individually with them to work on their play-by-play and give them certain tips and different skills that they can work on to improve their broadcasting ability. And then also studio work, working with a teleprompter, every aspect of being a television sports reporter. We present them with all these different options. Now, the kids that are 10, 11, 12, they're there because they love talking sports, and they're there with like-minded kids, and they have a great time. So you could find a 10-year-old that's never met anybody else in camp, and he might have 5 to 8 new friends by the end of camp. It's just such a neat thing. The older kids, for sure, they start deciding, and a lot of them talk to me about college and wanting to, hey, I'd like to do this in college. What can I do? What can I improve on? They'll share me their reel and work that they've done maybe in their high school, or work, I'll go over the work that we do at camp. And so that's kind of the progression of how they go from our camp to maybe college, and then eventually, hopefully, to professional.
Neil, last thing, as you'll recall, I made a spur-of-the-moment visit last month to Rowan's final Pizza with the Pros event. I think I got a picture of, you and Ashlyn Sullivan on stage. That was the guest speaker for that night. What a great program that is, Rowan's Pizza with the Pros. Tell us more about that.
So Pizza with the Pros is 10 straight weeks on campus where sports industry professionals join our students for an hour-long question and answer period. We get anywhere from 75 to 130 students. It is not a class. They come on their own on a Monday night from 6 to 7 p.m. We get broadcasters, play-by-play, marketing, PR, social media, former athletes, executives, sports executives, and they all come to campus, and it's open to the public. We Chet showed up, and I'm like, oh, all right, hey, Chet, how you doing? So no, and a lot of people come as well, but it's very well attended. We've done it now for 7 years. I've never repeated a guest during that time.
Wow.
So we are, I always try to bring, like for our first guest this past spring was Dave Sims, the new voice of the New York Yankees, as a friend. He came to my camp every year in Seattle. And then I try to bring someone different every year for the first one that kind of makes it a wow. And then we also have our speaker series where we bring high-end, sports industry professionals to our largest auditorium on campus, where we bring about 900 people. And I've brought Stephen A. Smith, Charles Barkley, Brian Dawkins for students to be able to ask them questions on a big stage and be able to have them interact with those individuals. So it's been great. We'll gear it up again in the fall, but we just finished up another spring. So looking forward to a little downtime here in the, even though I have the camps, we'll gear it up again coming up in August to get ready for the fall. But it's I'm glad you came, Chad. It was great to see you there. And Ashley Sullivan, she was great, wasn't she? She was
absolutely
terrific. Her story was remarkable. She decided to leave Jacksonville, a job with the Jaguars, and make this risky move of coming to Philadelphia for a part-time job to work in hockey. She never worked in hockey before. And she just told the story about how she kind of believed in herself. And now she's covering the Eagles and went to the Super Bowl, in fact. So it was a really good story, and I'm glad you were able to be there.
Yeah, she does a great job. She really does.
One last thing. Rick Tockett's a friend, and I'm so happy that Tock got the job. Now I know people are going to say, "Oh, another rehash flyer guy," all that. I'm just telling you, this guy is a proven veteran as a hockey coach. He won Stanley Cups as an assistant in Pittsburgh. He's been around the league, had some success 2 years ago in Vancouver. It was his decision to leave Vancouver. So I just think this is a guy that is, with Jonesy and with Danny Briere, guys he knows, with Dan Hilferty and the business side of things. I just think they have the right formula now to be able to eventually catch on. So shout out to Tock. I hope he does well, because he's a really, really good guy.
One final question for me. Some years ago, you told us about one of your students. We had her on with us, actually. She graduated, Kayla Santiago. What is Kayla doing? I see her name pop up every so often, and it looks like she's on to big things.
Yeah, she's doing great. She actually signed with a big-time agent, the Montag Group in New York. They represent a lot of the nationally known talent in sports broadcasting. So she signed with the Montag Group. She does some Delaware Bluecoats games as a play-by-play broadcaster in the G League. She does some sideline for the Bluecoats, but she's at Delmarva Sports Network, still there in Salisbury, Maryland. She does play-by-play of every sport imaginable. I'll say this: she was runner-up for a play-by-play job in the WNBA a year ago. And then she was a runner-up for a job here actually in Philadelphia. I don't want to, share any of more details on that, but she's actively pursuing some additional jobs because she's ready for the move. She's at that big age of 25. Let's go.
Young. She's still
young, man. She's young. She left school a year early. I mean, she left school when she was 20. She just turned 25. Yeah, 25. No, 24. 24. So she's 24. So she's been 4 years out of school. 24. So she's 24. I mean, she's doing great. We're very proud of Kayla, and she's a wonderful person, great work ethic, and I'm expecting big things out of her. And hopefully we'll bring her back when she's this big network star and she comes on Philly Press Box. There you go.
There you go. Well, Neil, we appreciate, as always, you taking the time to join us. It's always great.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Come by. Bill, you got to come by sometime. Anytime, Pizza with the Pros. We'll start it up again in late September. Hope to see you guys at Rowan University. They're great people. We have a great program going on. Close to 500 students right now in our 7th year. So we're growing big things. And thanks for the time. And have a great Memorial Day weekend to everybody out there. And thanks for having me.
I didn't get any pizza last time. I'm going to make sure to grab a slice before.
By the way, shout out to my man Pete, Chickies and Pete's. They've been providing me free pizza for many years for those kids. Crab fries once a year. I don't want to give the kids too many crab fries. We're looking after their diet too. We don't want to give them too much.
Thanks, Neil.
Yeah, all right, guys. Neil. Take care. See ya.
All right. Hey, Chad, Philly Press Box Radio is now part of the STT Sports Network, as in Set the Trends. It's a network set up by our pal Phil Stiefel, host of the terrific Trending in the AM show that you can find every weekday morning on the STT Sports Network YouTube channel. Check out Phil. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Phil's show is on there, and so is ours. Yep, you can find Philly Press Box Radio there in addition to on our own YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. Again, it's the STT Sports Network setting the trends for what sports talk should be.
And Bill, before you ask me about the Irish Rover, which I'm sure you were going to do because we've been doing it that way for the last several years, I want to mention something regarding our show and our content and our Philly Press Box Radio YouTube channel. As you know, we often break up our full shows and put individual interviews on there as separate videos, and you just never know what's going to get viewers' attention. I have an idea. I have no idea, I should say, how YouTube's algorithms work in terms of, what they suggest that people view. But for the longest time, and still today, our most watched video piece ever has been that of visit number 1 from the late, great Oakland A's catcher Ray Fosse 5 years ago, back in 2020, talking about the 1970s Oakland Athletics, Dick Allen, and then new Phil's manager Joe Girardi, and various other stuff. Well, over 12,000 views for that. Numbers 2 through 5, though, had been unchanged for quite a while, but all of a sudden we have a brand new one knocking those 4 videos back one notch. I'm going to see if I can find the stats for that. And yeah, I can. Our 11th anniversary, April 30th chat with the great Ray Didinger discussing the Eagles draft has, in fact, in less than 3 weeks, gotten more than 9,000 plus views. So here's the updated list now of our most watched videos on our YouTube channel over the past 5 years since we began that channel. Following Fosse and Ray Diddy in the number 2 spot there, we have Mitch Williams, the former Phillies closer, when he came on and did a lot of dissing of Kurt Schilling. That one drops to 3rd. And you'll notice that the next 2 most popular videos are ones with Philadelphia Warriors roller derby Hall of Famer Judy Arnold, who has quite a legion of fans all around the country and probably beyond. Love Judy. How about that, though? But yeah, thank you, Ray Didinger, for helping our channel get more, we think, worthy attention over the past few weeks, plus several dozen new subscribers in the process as well.
Yep, good stuff. And it was a great interview with Ray, obviously. I think anybody that listened to it left knowing a lot more about the Eagles and knowing that Ray obviously knows his stuff.
Absolutely. Always great to talk to Ray, and especially when he's helping boost our numbers. Now, you were asking about you were going to ask about the Irish Rover.
I was. Tell us what's going on over at the Irish Rover Station House. It's almost summertime, Chet.
Oh, man. I love this place. The Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, Bellevue Avenue over there, especially in the spring and summer, is awesome because of that big, beautiful patio outside for all to enjoy. You know by now that the Rover always has killer burger Thursdays, dinner specials Thursday through Sunday, happy hour deals Monday through Friday, live music most Saturday nights. Oh, plus a $5 Sunday Fun Day menu. And, of course, always 24 beers on tap. Coming up then on Tuesday, the 27th, there's another popular paint and sip event on the slate. Get your tickets, as that one pretty much always sells out. The Irish Rover Station House is on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne. Oh, the annual Father's Day car show coming up next month. I'll tell you more about that next week. Find more details on the web at IrishRoverStationHouse.com. And because I mentioned Ray Didinger, here he is.
Hi, this is Ray Didinger, and it is always fun to talk sports with these two guys, Bill and Chet, on Philly Press Box Radio.
There you go. Hey, Chet, let's get back to the Phillies for just a minute. Got a few things to talk about. We are now the best record in the National League. Yesterday, we were the best record in the NL East. Today, we're the best record in the National League.
Yeah, the Dodgers have lost a few. Thank you for that.
And the Mutts are the Mutts. They do what they do. They're going to go away.
And there's some unhappiness with Juan Soto now. Yep. Oh, my goodness. I love it.
Trouble. They're in trouble. Hey, but we talked to Neil a little bit about this Jose Alvarado situation. Yeah. I get what he's saying about Ranger Suarez, but you can't go through the regular season with 2 lefties. And they're going to have to make a move. Maybe it is Suarez to the bullpen, but it's going to have to be sooner rather than later. If something were to happen to Strom or
Tyler Banks, is he
Banks, that's it.
Banks.
You can't go with just one. 2's not enough. So what do you think? Are you really like the idea? Maybe Suarez goes now, or
It's a dilemma because, I mean, the one thing is, Ranger really wants to be a starter. He's in a contract year, so Scott Boras, his agent, would not be happy probably if they moved him to the bullpen. And he's also done very well in his last couple of starts, so you kind of want to build on that. But, if they need him in the pen, it's something you got to consider because, as you said, they do need another lefty in the pen. The pen's been doing a lot better of late, but, they've been playing Pittsburgh and Colorado, the perhaps two worst teams in the National League. So, I don't feel good with going with what they have as it is. So they're going to have to consider putting Ranger out there or finding somebody somewhere. I don't know who's going to make a talented lefty available without, trying to rob you blind in the process. So Dave Dombrowski's got some work to do right there because I don't think they can stand pat.
Absolutely. Well, and you have, we mentioned Andrew Painter. McAble had a fantastic first start, just one start. He's not going to the Hall of Fame yet, but it was a good start. But both are right-handers. If they were to bring one, both, some of them up at a time, they're more right-handers. And, in Taijuan Walker's situation, I think we'll see what he does tonight, whether he is going to sit in that 5 spot. Nola is going to be back at some point, and he certainly needs to get better.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation, the whole pitching rotation overall. I mean, Nola 1-7 now on the injured list with perhaps a phantom ankle thing. I don't know. But 1-7, 6.16 ERA, but everybody else has been doing really well. And Luzardo, who I mentioned to Neil, he's 4-0 and ERA 1.95. We saw a stat courtesy our buddy PJ today, right?
Yep.
That he's only the second lefty since Randy Johnson to be undefeated at this point with an ERA under 2 and averaging more than 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. Right. Pretty impressive stuff. And he's on a one-year deal.
I don't think that was since Randy Johnson. I think it was only him and Randy Johnson.
Yeah, ever. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, ever?
Yeah.
I thought he was the first since Randy Johnson. Whatever.
I didn't think so. But,
or maybe the first since the 1990s. I don't know.
PJ's on here. He can correct us.
He's been terrific, Luzardo, and they got to re-sign him. In addition to, Kyle Schwarber, who we mentioned with Neil, has got to be addressed as well. So the Phillies have some money to spend. They're going to have to spend some money. And they're going to have some decisions on a lot of players, going forward. At this point, I don't think they can re-sign JT Realmuto because they got to re-sign Schwarber and Luzardo.
Well, I'm going to put you on the hot seat right now.
Uh-oh.
All right. You're going to have to put your, oh my goodness. I just got a text. Jim Irsay, owner of the Colts, has died.
Oh, no.
How about that? Just got a text. How about that?
Wow. And your son is still with the Colts, right?
That's who texted me.
Oh, There you go.
All right. Kyle Schwarber, we're going to put you on the hot seat, a.k.a. Schwarbomb. In the final year of his $79 million 4-year contract, 32 years old. By all accounts, Schwarber's the team leader in the clubhouse too, Chet. Currently tied for the NL home run lead with 16 after
17.
last night.
17.
So then he's in the lead, right? He was 10th in RBIs when I wrote this and 4th in base on balls. The highest paid DH right now is Giancarlo Stanton at $32 million. Are you ready for 4 years, 35, 40, 45 million for Schwarber? That might not be enough.
To quote our pal Joe Howe, it's not my money. So, I think you've got to do it. He's been a real good slugger since joining the Phillies, 3.5 years ago. I know he had the sub 200 average back in 2023, but he's been phenomenal this season. Seems to be getting better with age. As Neil alluded, he's got the average up a bit. He's, becoming more selective at the plate. He's got a great work ethic. And as you said, a real leader in the clubhouse. So I think they have to do it. I know it's going to cost them a lot of money, but, I don't know how much time they have with this core. It may be this year and next year because, sign Schwarber now, but Harper's going to start showing some signs of wear and tear. He's already losing some of the power, though he has picked it up as far as average of late. I would do it. I would sign Schwarber.
I would sign him too. I don't know how the math all works out, but, I was one that was not very happy about Kyle Schwarber when he was in the leadoff spot and hitting below 200.
I remember.
He is now on pace, and I don't have the numbers right in front of me, he's on pace to strike out somewhere around 120 times. He has
down from close to 200, right?
200 each of the last 3 years.
Yeah.
He struck out. As far as being a hitter, he has gotten so much better. We mentioned his walks. He's always up top in the on-base percentage. He's going to drive in runs. He's hitting for power. You know what bugs me, Chet, is I always have in my head about Ryan Howard and how it ended for Ryan Howard, and very unfairly, that he got hurt. He ended up on the back end of a long deal, and he couldn't perform anymore. And that's got to make you wonder. If 5 years, he's 37. You're not going to hit Schwarbombs like he's hitting them, I don't think, at 37 years old. So maybe he's on his way up, but when he hits 33 or 34, he starts on his way down. It's definitely risky business, especially if you're talking $150, $200 million.
Yeah, it's scary when you're giving any player, getting deeper into his 30s, a big, long contract like that. I worry about Turner and Harper with the long contracts they have, and what they're going to be like in a couple of years. So it's a risk, but I think you got to keep him. Yeah, you have to keep him. He's so important to this team.
Well, I did want to mention to you, Trey Turner. He's got things turned around a little bit. He's hot, swinging a good bat. Are you getting a little bit on board with Turner? You weren't too on board with him, but
I'm on board.
He's coming around.
He's not the superstar that maybe we thought he was going to be about the time they brought him to Philly a couple of years ago, but he has gotten the average up into the 290s area, close to 300.
Oh, he's over 300. Yeah.
Over 300. There you go. Yeah. The defense is still a concern sometimes, but I'm okay with him, and I do like him in the leadoff spot, which he very often is, but usually it's Stott now. But I'm fine with Stott and Turner at the top of the lineup. So yeah, I've come around quite a bit on Turner, and I've come around. Well, not that I was off on Bryce Harper, but Bryce Harper's got his average from 232 a couple of weeks ago up to 270 now. Yep. A lot of them are little, dink hits and seeing eye hits, but hey, they all count.
Line drive outs.
Yeah, right.
You're right. And one other thing, or two other things I want to throw at you. Alec Boehm, he's got it turned around. He's raised his average about 100 points.
And how about the defense? He's flashing some leather at third base.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And then one final thing, you mentioned it very briefly. JT Realmuto is going to be a situation.
Yeah.
For this club.
I don't think you can resign him. I just don't. I know he's, beloved in the clubhouse, and, the pitchers love working with him, but he is definitely starting to show his age. When you're behind the plate, played as many games as he has, that's going to take something out of you. And him, I would not resign. I apologize, JT.
Well, I mean, the situation there is now do you have a catcher? Is Marchand your guy? Stubbs isn't your guy. They had O'Happy a couple of years ago. They let him go in a deal. So now all of a sudden you went from a pretty strong catching core in the system to not so much.
Yeah, something's going to have to be done there. But, you're not going to have a star at every position. And, hey, something's going to have to be done there. And that's a job for Dave Dombrowski to figure out, Bill.
There you go. Hey, Chet, what could be better than a summer of baseball, Phillies baseball, and tailgating with the best tailgaters in Philadelphia? Bob Cavanaugh and the gang at Cavs Philly Tailgates.
Yeah, you know how I feel about Cav and Company. They've been cooking up a terrific catering business for some 35 years. You know them for their tailgate parties. Cavs is a 3-time winner of Philly Tailgate's Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. Cavs does corporate events, parties, you name it. Of course, Cav hosts tailgates before all Eagles games outside the link. And there will be various tailgates outside Citizens Bank Park this summer as well. For example, there's one before a Phillies-Mets battle on Saturday, June 21st. Another before a Phillies-Orioles game with a busload or two of folks from Baltimore joining in the fun for that one in August. Get all the details on upcoming events at Cavs' website, phillytailgates.com. And if you have questions, you can email them at cavscatering@verizon.net. And of course, Cav and his partner Vince at Philly Sports Trips are now taking reservations for all Birds road trips this fall, now that the schedule's been unveiled. Keep that in mind. Cavs Philly tailgates, Bill, is the way to go.
Absolutely. Hey, Chet, I want to jump over real quick and talk about the Eagles real fast, or at least the brotherly shove. I understand that Jeffrey Lurie gave a 1-hour speech, very passionate speech. Jason Kelce was also there at the meeting to discuss how he did not get hurt running that play. He did not leave football because he was hurt. They managed to have enough votes to not overturn the brotherly shove. I like the brotherly shove better than the tush push. That's not, yeah. But anyway, what do you make of it?
I think I told you before, I wouldn't have been upset if they did ban it, but I don't think they should have. I don't think there's any reason to. As you said, no injuries ever related to the shove performed by the Eagles or anyone else. Basically, the other teams are just trying to ban it because the Eagles were so damn good at it. Right. And you'll notice it was mostly teams in the NFC. Only the Saints and Lions, I think, from the NFC voted not to ban it. It was a 22-10 vote in favor of banning it, but they needed 24. So a lot of opposition, especially from rivals in the NFC.
Yeah, I as I posted on my Facebook page last night or whenever it was, I don't have a problem with the play. I have a problem with the whole philosophy that because somebody's doing something and you can't figure it out, you're going to ban it. It's like saying Patrick Mahomes is a good quarterback throwing the football, so let's not let him throw it anymore. Stop that stuff. You can't make rules like that.
But here we are, Bill. We are now safe from the tush push ban.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Hey, great guest tonight in Neil Hartman. Who's coming to Philly Press Box Radio next week?
Oh, we're doing that already. Let me jump around and see.
You got to stay on it. I'm bouncing you all over the place tonight.
Okay. Let me see if I can find a picture of our guest for next week's show, Bill.
Tell me.
Okay. Well, we know what he looks like. Next week, Bill, we're going to do something special, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Yeah. But also, our guest next week is an old friend of ours who we worked with quite closely from the edge of Philly sports. It's our old pal, Big Al. Big Al Zafiri is going to join us live. Now, he filled in 2 months ago when you were away one Wednesday, so he co-hosted with me for the entire show. But this time, it's going to be the three of us together, Bill, just like old times. Big Al Zafiri next week with us, and we're going to talk about something special in addition to the usual Philly sports stuff.
Absolutely. Well, let's get to that. I bounced around on you. Maybe
you did. You threw me off, Bill.
Well, hey, 5 years ago, Chet, it popped up in my Facebook memories just yesterday. We did a segment where we picked our 5-person Philly sports Mount Rushmore. We're going to revisit this next week to see if it still stands. A lot has happened in this town in 5 years, and it will be interesting to see there's some serious legends on our 5.
Well, first of all, Bill, before people start messaging us and texting us and commenting, we know that there are only 4 faces on Mount Rushmore. Only 4. That is true. But we knew that it was going to be really, really tough to just go with 4, so we expanded it to 5. And when we did this, we decided to limit it to 1964, 65 to 2020 at the time, because, that's pretty much when we started watching Philadelphia sports up until 2020, when we did this 5 years ago. And, you and I actually agreed on 4 of the 5 names that should be up there. Bobby Clark, a no-brainer. Will Chamberlain was a no-brainer. Mike Schmidt, a no-brainer. And this one kind of surprised me. We both actually put Julius Erving on there. But my 5th guy was Brian Dawkins. And yes, I chose him over Reggie White, while your 5th was Lefty, Steve Carlton. So that gave us a total of 6 names for our mythical Mount Rushmore of Philadelphia sports from the mid-'60s to the year 2020.
And
now,
if I recall, there was we both had our seventh, or our next one was Bernie Perron, right?
I know we both considered him strongly. He was one of the near misses, shall we say.
Yeah.
And Reggie White was also one for me. And I ended up going with decision. Do I go Reggie or Brian? And just because of the popularity with the people, right up until 2020 and still beyond. And Brian Dawkins, of course, still very much with us. Reggie not. I chose Brian Dawkins. So the question now is, were we right in picking those 5 or 6 guys? Did we make a mistake in leaving off Reggie White? Did we make a mistake leaving off Bernie Perron? Did we make a mistake leaving off Allen Iverson? And what about guys who have, played more recently, like Jason Kelce, Jalen Hurts, Joel Embiid? Bill, maybe you want to put Joel Embiid on there.
Sure.
Maybe not. So anyway, those are the decisions we have to consider, and we will think about this in depth between now and next Wednesday and come up with a new Mount Rushmore, perhaps.
And so for our viewers,
yes,
do your homework so that while we're talking about it next week, you be talking about it next week and let us know who your top 5 are. And if we were right the first time, and who you want to put in now. You got 5 to make. We can't have Denny Malloy say, "Oh, here's my 5, but here's 3 more." We ain't playing that.
Speaking of Malloy, it doesn't take much to confuse Chet. How dare he?
Well,
after all I've done for him over the years.
We kind of know that. Oh, geez. So we mentioned Rick Tocchet. Neil did. Rick had his opening press conference with the Philly faithful. Very good, very energetic. Loves to be in Philly. Loves the Philly fans. What do you make of it? It's certainly too early to tell, but is Tocchet the kind of guy it's going to take in Philadelphia?
Well, we touched on it a bit last week because that was right when the news broke last Wednesday. I'm okay with the move. I understand, people saying, "Oh no, another former Flyer," but the last several coaches were not former Flyer organization guys, and that didn't work out either. But I like Tocchet. As Neil said, Tocchet is a likable guy. He's had some success in the league. Hasn't been an overwhelming success. He was coach of the year 1 year. I think he's going to fit in well, though, with the players. And I'm excited. I think it's a good move. I think with, working with Jonesy and Briere, they will take all the proper steps to try to make this team, watchable again and competitive again. Of course, they got to do well in next month's draft, first thing first.
Yeah, well, and I think there's a lot to be said for a guy that's, been there and done that. Having a taskmaster like John Tortorella, Rick Tocchet could say the same thing, and it'd be taken a whole lot different because he was in them corners grinding. He was on the ice battling. So yeah, I kind of like it. They certainly need to develop these young kids better, and that is either they've missed in the draft or they haven't developed players, or both. And it certainly needs to get corrected.
I'm with you, Bill. Hey, we got a couple of things we got to squeeze in still. We were going to take more of a deeper dive into the Eagles schedule this week.
Yeah.
I was going to try to do the, WL thing. I didn't get around to doing that, but, just looking at the schedule and from what I've read, the Eagles have the 4th most difficult schedule in the league based on last year's wins and losses. Believe it or not, the New York Football Giants somehow have the toughest schedule, percentage of .574 winning percentage from their opponents. The Bears and Lions are tied for second. Then come the Eagles at .561, or 56% winning percentage among their opponents. 11 games that the Eagles play next year out of the 17 will be against teams that made the playoffs this year. They don't have any back-to-back home games, which is weird. That's the first time ever that I can remember that being the case. Yep. So it's a lot of, home away, basically.
And on different days of the week.
That's the other thing too. Yeah, you got Thursday, you got a Friday, Black Friday, you got Saturday late in the season, you got I think a couple of Monday night games. They do have more 1 o'clock games this year than you would expect, but not an easy schedule for sure. So I'm not ready to do a one-loss thing, but I'm just going to say this. I know I'm not going to predict a 14-3 season like they had last year. But I do still think they're certainly the class of the NFC East. I wouldn't be shocked if Washington actually took a step back this year.
That is exactly what I was going to say.
Really?
Yeah, that was exactly when you stopped talking. What I was going to say is I think there's going to be a little reality check in Washington. Again, coordinators see tape. Daniels was really good. Daniels isn't going to have the freedom this year because he's going to be defensed differently. I'm thinking there's going to be a little bit more trouble in Washington than expected. The other thing I think is funny, Chet, is George Pickens is a good pickup in Dallas. If George Pickens, the football player, shows up, if George Pickens, the team cancer, shows up, then they're the same old Cowboys. For whatever reason, they get all this hype. They actually have more national TV games than the Eagles. I don't get it. They stink. They're going to stink, and I'll keep saying they stink.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm not worried about Dallas. I'm certainly not worried about the Giants. Washington will be, perhaps okay, but like I said, they're going to have a tougher schedule than they had last year. And teams are going to be more ready, I think, this year for Daniels. So I'm still picking the Eagles to win the division, but maybe with only 11 or 12 wins this year instead of 14 here in May.
Well, how many losses does it take for everybody? Not everybody. Some people want Nick Sirianni to be on the hot seat.
If they start 2-2 again this year, like they did last year, trust me, there'll be people say, "Oh, Sirianni overrated. Shouldn't have given him that extension."
It was a fluke.
Yeah.
It was all a fluke. Oh, shoot.
Hey, Bill, before we do run out of time, something else I got to mention. We lost a great American Tuesday morning. Oh, nice glass.
Cheers to you, Norm.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't say great American. A great American beer drinker. How's that? Yeah, we shouted the name Norm when he walked into the bar. There's Norm on the right with me and Norm on the left. There's Norm at his familiar spot at the bar. He was 76 years old, the actor George Wendt, who passed peacefully in his sleep early Tuesday. And yes, I did have the pleasure of meeting him at a con back in 2015. He was very cool. He actually died 32 years to the day from when the Cheers finale aired back in May of 1993. How about that? Wow. In the years that followed, he made numerous appearances then on Saturday Night Live as, let me see. Oh, yeah, that guy, one of the super fans, Bob Swirsky, a wing-eating, beer-drinking super fan of the Bears. So he will be missed. Bill, you were a Cheers watcher, I'm assuming?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. How could you not like Cheers? And it was like real life fun stuff. Like you hoped you could do down at your corner pub.
So just a couple of my favorite comeback one-liners from Norm upon entering the bar. The bartender, "What's new, Norm?" "Terrorists, Sam. They've taken over my stomach and they're demanding beer." Or, "What do you like, Norm?" "A reason to live. Give me another beer." Or, "What'll you have, Normie?" "Well, I'm in a gambling mood, Sammy. I'll take a glass of whatever comes out of that tap. Looks like beer, Norm. Call me Mr. Lucky." I could go on.
Oh, great stuff.
Yes, here's to Norm.
Here's the Norm. We're going Phillies.
All right, Bill.
All right.
Wrap it up.
Let's do it. Let's thank tonight's special guest, Neil Hartman. Our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Cavs Philly Tailgate, PPCC 118 Raz Room. For Jim Chet Chesko, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll join Philly Press Box Radio next Wednesday, May the 28th at 7 p.m. You can see us live on Facebook, on our Philly Press Box Radio YouTube channel, and on the STT Sports Network YouTube channel, and listen on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the others. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans. Let's go Phillies.